stories to tell. And so our next reader is Hari Lamba, who's the author of Brighter Climate Futures. And so Hari, I'm going and looking for the bio that you sent, which I would love to post. And so just as we support Black Lives Matter and we stand against the violence that's occurring, we hold space for and acknowledge that pain and those, what is going on that is affecting so many people. We also support the environment, and today is World Environment Day. It's June 5th every year. And so we would like to see Black lives respected, as well as, the environment cleaned up, so that everybody has a wonderful and bright and safe future in which to live. And so Hari is an engineer and an entrepreneur and an artist and a poet as well, who has dedicated a lot of time and energy into making the world a better place. And so he has put together a practical plan for helping our economy and our environment to be not just sustainable, but to be rejuvenated, to restore a lot of the earth and a lot of human society that has fallen apart and become degraded over the years. So he's going to talk about his work and his book and his plans. So everybody, please welcome Hari Lamba.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you. I come from a different background than you folks. I came to the country in 1970 as a young Sikh boy wearing a turban. My dad had fought in the British India Army in Second World War in 4 places. He fought in Ethiopia, he fought in North Africa and Italy, and he led a group of British India's army soldiers called the Sikh Light Infantry, and he has enormous books that, the old Leica cameras had a special flavor to them, and he showed us all his books at war, riding, motorcycles, riding, commanding a platoon of troops in Ethiopia. And then he was also in Singapore just before it fell to the Japanese. Anyways, I came to this country in 1970 as a young Sikh boy and was at Urbana-Champaign, University of Illinois, and had a good time at grad studies. And then I mostly worked for about 40 years in the Chicago, Illinois area, among most of the farm fields of Illinois. And then moved to California to be with our grandkids in the San Francisco area. Anyways, I've been active on the side quite a bit. I'll send a little bit of information on my poems. It's at the back page of my current website, which is Brighter Climate Futures. So let me start kind of with one of the poems, which is a little bit a poem for biodiversity. It's in my book called Our Only Home, Poems for Planet Earth, which is a self-published book you can see on Amazon. And so the poem goes like this, and then I'll get into my topic. It says, Lord of the universe and Lord of all life, teach us to care for each other even as we suffer coronavirus. Make us demand racial justice so that our Black brethren can feel safe. Make us transform our economy so that it is good for everyone. Teach us to grow in love even as we celebrate diversity. And this book that I wrote is about nature. I used to be walking around in the park and a poem would strike me and I'd come and write it down. But also it's a tradition of poetry called verse journalism, V-E-R, verse journalism, which is poetry with a purpose. So I started with beauty of nature and so forth, but then I go on to our responsibility to the planet. So I've tried to come at climate change from various aspects, from the head, from the heart. Poetry is from the heart. And so let me get on to the topic. It says, for enduring solution to our society's problems, we have to march, but we then have to act. For a few decades, I've been talking about the worsening problem of climate change, but along the way, I have also been educating myself and talking about solutions. with my understanding of engineering, science, ecology, economics, and political affairs, I've been kind of a generalist most of my life, jack of all trades, but that's good because you get an understanding about the different areas. I realized that we, global society, or we, the human species, can do it. So rather than continue to paint a picture of gloom and doom, which by the way will happen if we do nothing, I realized that we can solve climate change. So my message is one of promise and hope. If we get our act together, we can do it. Again, my message is very upbeat compared to the other books. We can have plenty of renewable energy, clean energy, replace our fossil fuels, get our greenhouse emissions down and rejuvenate our ecosystems for a more beautiful Earth. I put all these ideas together in a very easy to understand way in my forthcoming book titled Brighter Climate Futures, a Global Energy, Climate and Ecosystem Transformation, that presents a transformation process and a detailed quantitative plan to achieve all the major goals by the year 2050, so that the average global surface temperature rise no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, which IPCC tells us we have to do in order to avoid the worst consequences of climate change. We will then need to act further to cool the Earth from 2050 to the end of the century. We have also just established a website called writerclimatefutures.com, which is available to you, that will act as a center for information and action, where you can go and download a free summary of the plan and the book. There are 5 major parts of the transformation plan that I'm proposing, and I think giving this talk was able to put all my thoughts together in order to try to crystallize, what are the 5 main things. So the first part is an energy and emissions plan to keep global temperatures below 1.5 C. This includes a strategy on how we can practically implement a Green New Deal, a massive expansion of carbon sinks like forests, coastal ecosystems, and agriculture, a big year-round strategy for disaster risk reduction for all worsening climate-related natural disasters, a big jobs and economy strategy that includes a just transition, energy democracy, and a reindustrialization strategy for the new transformed economy, a strengthened and empowered global organization to organize and implement globally. We Americans think that the border stops in the north at Canada and in the south in Mexico, but it doesn't. We really need to open our hearts up to the world in order to work with the world to solve problems. I will finally describe this, where this will take us. The first part is providing plenty of energy while reducing carbon emissions to zero, or developing plenty of renewable energy sources and eliminating fossil fuel sources that cause carbon dioxide emissions. The difference is that rather than start with climate change, I start with energy. We can have plenty of energy, mainly solar, as less than 1% of the Earth's land area can produce not just the electrical energy, which is about 12 to 14% of total energy, but all the energy for the whole world can be produced on 1% of area worth of solar panels. The main challenge with solar is storage, because it's only shining 5 to 6 hours in the day. If you can store solar energy in some way when the sun is shining, then you can use it at all other times. Since solar energy is produced from solar panels, which mainly generate electricity, the plan is simple. Replace all fossil fuels with renewable energy, mainly solar, electrify everything, power the additional electricity with solar, and you store solar energy in large quantities in non-carbon fuels like hydrogen, which you can also use to power things which you cannot electrify. So all coal and other fossil fuel plants like natural gas in California can be replaced by a combination of solar plus battery plus green hydrogen power plants. The dig, burn, and dump cycle of fossil fuels will be gone, as will all the damage and dirty pollution from mining, extracting, transporting, processing, burning, and pollution they cause. Coal burning areas of China and India are like gas chambers today. You won't believe it. People landing in New Delhi feel like they've entered a gas chamber because the coal power plants are burning like crazy. Who in their right mind would burn coal if you can store solar energy. All the gas stations will be gone and replaced by solar electric hydrogen charging stations. I have introduced a new concept of solar electric highways, where again, these solar electric charging stations will replace all the gas stations that you've ever used. And there are more detailed plans for the US, California, China, India, and the European Union, as well as summary plans for the other nations. For the United States, the Green New Deal is a good set of aspirations. You must have heard about Green New Deal. My plan for transformation will help in the practical implementation of the Green New Deal. Globally, my transformation plan is expanding to the global Green New Deal. The second part of what I'm proposing is a massive expansion of carbon sinks, like forests, coastal ecosystems, and on all the world's non-ice coastline, and a transformed regenerative agriculture. But since these take time to mature and start absorbing carbon, I'm saying we treat this as a bonus and only rely on these to absorb about 5% of our carbon emissions. So the plan proposes a massive reforesting of the earth by 1 billion hectares. The US had lost 120 million hectares since 1620. I'm proposing adding back 80 million hectares. Anyway, let me proceed to what the net result of these done properly is stemming the 6th massive extinction of the species that is occurring right now. In our planetary history, we are living through the 6th massive extinction of the species. By the time we go through this 1.5 hours, we'll most probably have lost 2 species. Just think of that. So these ecosystems will be absorbing carbon and revive the ecosystems and biodiversity. So the third part of it is I'm proposing a big year-round global plan for disaster risk reduction. Even if we are successful in limiting the temperature rise to 1.5 Celsius, we'll still have, it's 1 degree Celsius today, and already things are bad. At 1.5, things are going to be still a little bit worse. So we still need to plan for disasters. So what I'm saying is, year-round, we need a global plan, and governments function nationally and everywhere should be to be planning every day of every year to be having a disaster risk reduction plan for climate-related disasters like wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, and catastrophic floods, so that year-round we're preparing for more effective to be more effective before, during, and after a particular disaster. I mean, in California, this means organizing now and sending in an army of workers to go and prepare the forest areas for the upcoming wildfire season, so that the wildfires are easier to control. The fourth part that I'm talking about relates to jobs and economy. Everybody keeps saying, oh, you know, we'll have to do without. Economy will go into, you know, doldrums. And I say that's nonsense. The fourth part, what I'm proposing is a job and economy strategy that includes a just transition for fossil fuel workers, energy democracy so that the benefits are more widely distributed, and a total reindustrialization for the new economy that is pro-employment and pro-environment. So there's a lot of detail in that in another one of my books called Rejuvenating America, but also in this book. The fifth and major part I'm proposing is a strengthening and establishment of an empowered and effective global organization that will plan, organize, facilitate, coordinate, monitor, fund, and implement such a plan. Both with coronavirus and with climate change, we need to become better global citizens for the world to be able to effectively solve these problems. Trying to go it alone as America first is going to be suicidal. The world needs US leadership for the whole process to succeed globally. And we need to totally discard this anti-United Nations thinking. This transformation process and plan will take a high level of global cooperation and coordination. It needs to be organized, put in place, and led so that everything is implemented as per schedule. Lastly, I have a call for action, which is calling for all of you and all the people of the world to start reducing their own carbon footprints and applying the political pressure to ensure that the global transformation plan, such as proposed in my book, is agreed to and implemented globally. So what will the world look like after this transformation is implemented? There is no question of doing without. We will have plenty of renewable energy, clean renewable energy, mainly solar. The earth will be much cleaner, less polluted, not very hot, a beautiful, healthy, and productive planet, and a good life for all. We can have it all, but we have to start now and work on it in an organized and systematic fashion. There's one little perspective I'd like to add. I've been going around and, just like yourselves, visiting Alaska, going to Hawaii, and as a tourist, and of course, going to a place called Little Tibet on the northeast part of the northern part of India. Almost all the places I have visited and enjoyed, I have later on learned that 5 to 6 months, or maybe something thereafter, those places got hit with climate-related natural disasters. I was in Hawaii in February of 2018, I believe, and that late that year, the island of Kauai was totally devastated by catastrophic floods. I've been up to Alaska and noticed that all but 2 of the glaciers are going to be melting. So anyways, I think I've written poems. I've been up at Banff National Forest and then written poems about the beauty and the vanishing glaciers. So I come from that particular perspective. We have to start preserving all the beautiful things we are seeing, because otherwise our grandkids ain't going to be seeing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So everybody feel welcome to unmute and applaud for Hari.
Big applause.
Yes. And if people have questions, feel welcome to ask.
So your book that you're writing about climate change, who was this directed towards? Is this the general public, or you're trying to seek change through other unique channels?
Neil, it's mainly directed towards climate people who are active and concerned about climate change. Not everybody is. And also towards the people, hopefully, who can make a difference. I'm hoping to grab the attention of leaders, national leaders, global leaders. But I'm hoping that besides it being accepted at the higher levels, I'm hoping that this gives enough rationale to those who are active so that it can apply some pressure from below by saying, hey, there's this plan. We can do it. And all the things you've been saying about climate change solutions just ain't true. And so if people can be, there've been people marching on the street. Millions have been marching for these climate marches, just as been marching currently for Black Lives Matter. So I'm hoping that between putting this information on top and putting this information from climate activists from below, that this will give the pressure from below and hopefully the facilitation from above to convince global leaders and national leaders that this is doable and we should get started with it. I also get very worried when I hear young couples not going to have kids because they don't want to leave their kids and grandkids. They're very worried. They don't want to have kids in order to, because they don't know what kind of a future they're going to leave for them. And I certainly would like to leave. So I'm kind of directing it towards those young couples too, if they can get some hope that, hey, this is going to be something better than this, a steady, God bless you, steady deterioration that, so that's kind of where the audience I'm directing this book at. Does that answer your question, hopefully?
Yes, thank you. It does.
So I have a question. What
Sure.
This is Henry. You mentioned about storage.
Right. Mm-hmm. Sure, go ahead. What's your question? Uh, I can't hear you, Henry.
Yeah, he's muted.
Henry, did you mute? I think you're muted, Henry.
He's muted.
Can you ask Henry to unmute?
Yeah, I'm gonna go and look for him. I mean, he can unmute, and I'm going to scroll down and find him. Yeah, I just clicked on ask to unmute.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you
Yeah,
now,
I hear
Henry.
you
Go
now.
ahead.
Okay, I can't hear you very well. I don't know why this. I'm on my phone. So my question was about storage for solar, and you mentioned something about using hydrogen as a storage process. And my second question is, what did you if you saw the recent Michael Moore movie and what you thought of it?
You're talking about Planet of the Apes? I'm sorry, Planet of the
Yes,
Humans?
yeah, Planet of the Humans, right.
Oh yeah. You want me to talk to both issues, storage as well as Planet of the Humans?
Yeah.
All right, so storage, they are now talking, practically speaking, of replacing natural gas power plants in California with a combination of solar. So you have like 100 megawatt solar power plant with about a 60 megawatt battery storage, having say 4 hours of storage or maybe 8 hours of storage. And so each time the clouds come over or late evening, when you need power, the batteries kick in, okay? And these large scale battery systems are becoming pretty common.
Okay.
They're completely different from what the battery systems that are in cars. But anyway, so there's the batteries, those are one. Now the thing is that, and this is happening around the world now, and other countries, and unfortunately the US is kind of lagging because of its fixation with fossil fuels and trying to do research on more efficiency on. You have water is basically hydrogen and oxygen. And all you really need is a cost-effective process of electrolysis to take water and split it up into hydrogen and oxygen. And then there's actually another process, which you take nitrogen from the air, which is about 80% of what you breathe, and taking this green hydrogen and combining it into ammonia. Both of those fuels are portable, are energy dense, and the world has learned to use millions and millions of tons of both of these products. And the world uses 70 million tons of hydrogen and 170 million tons of ammonia today, mostly ammonia in agriculture. So you can, all you really need is cost-effective ways of producing hydrogen and ammonia. And you can take this and, for example, in a solar power plant, if you have surplus solar energy, you can be producing hydrogen during the day while you're giving electricity to consumers, and then use the hydrogen at night. Just store the hydrogen or the ammonia at night and be producing power at night. So storage, that's the kind of answer to storage.
Okay.
And it's more in more detail in my book, and I'm elaborating on it, and I'll be publishing articles on my website and so forth. The second question you asked was what again? It was on the
on Planet of Humans.
Oh, Planet of the Humans is neither good for the planet nor for humans. It's in a long list of climate denier type movies that unfortunately they really should have gone after coal and natural gas and oil and the enormous destruction and pollution caused by fossil fuels. Instead, they go after outdated information about renewable energy, outdated kinds of things, and they go to a place where there's a dismantled solar power plant which was dismantled for some other reason, and they call it a solar dead zone. And they don't go to a 2,000 megawatt power plant that is now there in the world. And 2,000 megawatt power plant, by the way, consists of 1,000 megawatt, a big nuclear power plant consists of 1,000 megawatts, which consists of 5 reactors. And you have from 100 megawatt to 2,000 megawatt solar electric power plants now working. And there are about 62 mega utility scale power plants bigger than 200 megawatt. And each of those is like one nuclear power plant, you know, and so they don't visit that. With windmills, you've learned how to, the initial windmills ran too fast, so birds ran into them. So it created a lot of bad publicity. But now the big ones run real slow and the birds can see them. So there's very little bird killed. So then they go to biomass and they take, which is not something, it's something that I actually am criticizing and not advocating. They take wood pellets and you take the forest and you convert it into wood pellets and then you go and generate electricity. And we call that biomass. And so they're giving that a bad name and saying biomass is bad. And I'm saying biomass is bad too, but they're using it to create a bad name for renewable energy. So, and then they're going after these guys who've been really fighting, like Bill McKibben and Al Gore, who really have been doing a yeoman's job trying to highlight this problem, even as the world has been twiddling its thumbs about climate change. And they pull out remote taxation and other information in order to try and, discredit these folks. So I have a whole chapter in my book on climate deniers, all the false arguments that they've come up with. I call it the Tobacco Institute approach. The Tobacco Institute tried to convince the United States that tobacco is good for the health. And these guys try to convince you that, all the renewable energy is bad for your health. So it's the climate deniers. It came out at a really bad time, and unfortunately, it's something that I have. After I read it, I actually inserted a page and a half describing what I'm talking to you in the book, in the chapter on climate deniers. So I'm sure as soon as my book comes out, I'm going to get hit by the fossil fuel industry, and they're going to come after me like crazy and try to discredit me. I'm prepared for it, but anyways, it's that movie is just a total piece of crap.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I wrote some stuff about it, especially because it concludes that basically we need to reduce world population. I mean, it's like the old population bomb argument. I thought that was terrible.
Anyway, that's my answer to it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You raised a lot of important points. So does anybody else have final questions for Hari or any of our other authors? Just if anybody would like to make a comment, feel welcome. And everybody can see and save the information about the authors and about the Shea Literary Journal and the fund over in the chat.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So if that's the end, everybody feel welcome to unmute. We have a tradition for closing these Zoom calls where everybody unmutes and then we all clap and say woo together to applaud the authors. So I'm unmuted, so I'll start. Thank you. Thank you. Woo!
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to Hari and Terry and Neil.
Thank you.
And happy World Environment Day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you very much. Thank you.